Part 43. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wangshi-san. Chapter 421. After a deep exchange, Yang Tian learned that the current awakening zone is very different from other zones. Take the Chinese zone for example. Yang Tian is a level 172 Immortal King, which is enough to be proud of the national server. This level, this rank, is nothing in the awakening zone. Although there are no gods in the awakening zone, there are thousands of saint kings above level 180, which is simply terrifying. Before, Hu was only the bottom of the 1,000 people. Even the 4 teammates who were traveling with him, their levels in Taixu are also above level 180, but they are only at the level of Immortal King because they don't have the blood of the Holy Beast or the Holy Light. The average level is the biggest gap. But there is no way, who makes the Brave War Zone, that is, the Awakening War Zone, the treasure of the world government, and the government's scientific research department, such as Lu Jun, will provide all the information and intelligence that can be analyzed to every Awakener in the Brave War Zone free of charge. The environment in the Awakening War Zone is too good. Everyone is an elite carefully selected by the world government. Under healthy competition, their growth rate is much faster than that of ordinary players. In 2 years, the whole nation will awaken, but even at that time, the stage will be the current batch of awakeners. In addition, people like Yang Tian, the yellow-haired Sword Emperor, and the best players in the major war zones can also squeeze into that stage. It is said that the Battle of Empires has already begun in the Awakening War Zone. The Taixu Native Empire, that is, the empire created by NPCs, similar to the 4 empires in the Chinese war zone, has been completely destroyed, and some strong people have created their own empires. 1 call and 100 responses, enjoying the glory of an emperor. People of that level are very few even in the Awakening War Zone, and each of them is a hero. In 2 years, those heroes will be awarded the rank of marshal by the world government. In the real world, world-class marshals will lead humans to fight against alien Zerg. Under that light, Yang Tian in his previous life can only be eclipsed. Having said that, the Awakener War Zone has reached this level. Frankly speaking, they have almost penetrated Taixu. In 2 years, almost all members can reach the maximum level. The top group of people will go further and pursue the god-level blood or godhood, and become gods. By the way, there is no world war in the Awakener War Zone. Because the world war itself is a competition between major war zones, and the Awakener War Zone, a separate server, has a taste of closed-door cultivation. If we put aside the upper realms such as the God Realm, the Angel Demon Realm, and just talk about the Mortal Realm, for the Awakener War Zone, the Empire War is already the end. Because of the powerful push of the new generation of rockets, in just a few minutes, the spaceship driven by Yang Tian and others has broken through the Earth's atmosphere and arrived in the vast universe. The universe is essentially dark, but it is not as dark as imagined, because there are many planets including the Sun, meteorites, and even some life forms in the universe that emit light and heat, and have visibility. Yang Tian discovered that it was not the first time for Lu Yan and the other 4 teammates to roam the universe. Based on their experience, if nothing unexpected happens, it is enough to ensure that the spaceship can safely sail for 3 months to approach the insect star. As time passed, Yang Tian's English level continued to soar due to the environment. On the other side, Taixu National Server. Even if Yang Tian was not there, the world did not change a second. Including the Water Alliance, many forces and many players were still constantly upgrading monsters, grabbing treasures and exploring, and having a lot of fun. 2 months after Yang Tian disappeared, on that day, 3 people in the Chinese war zone rushed to level 180 in succession, occupying the top 3 of the national server level list in one fell swoop. They were the 3 lingering anonymous players. The next day, God's Left Hand rushed to level 180 and locked the 4th place in the national server level list. After another half a month, the likes of Huangmao Sword Emperor Sci-fi rushed to level 181 after another, and opened the World Ocean and Fantasy World copies at the same time. Perhaps because Yang Tian was not there, Huangmao had to shoulder the burden of the Water Alliance. Under this pressure, he worked extra hard and not only reached the level of Saint King at level 180, but also won several colored equipment including 3 color and 6 color. Dr. Addis had already upgraded the instrument, and the first function from then on would only search for souls above the Emperor level. Recently, Huangmao has been leveling up while beheading various heroic souls and casting several complete heroic equipment. At the same time, he threw all the heroic souls he collected to Xiaojin to devour, and Xiaojin's life level once again transformed and promoted to Saint King. It is worth mentioning that Xian Yuan Longer and Alice had naturally reached Saint King a long time ago. In other words, the current Water Alliance has 4 Saint Kings, namely Huangmao, Xiaojin, Xian Yuan Longer and Alice. On this day, the people in the Water Alliance asked Huangmao about Yang Tian's situation as always. Now that the national server is hidden, many people have reached level 180, while Yang Tian's level is still at level 172, which is undoubtedly worrying. I don't know. I don't know what that guy is doing. It's like he has disappeared from the face of the earth. For 2 or 3 months, there is no trace of him. His phone is also turned off. Huangmao shook his head and reported truthfully. Although the two of them were in cahoots with each other and had a good relationship, he really didn't know Yang Tian's current situation. Don't worry, everyone. The leader is not here, and everyone has to do their own part at the critical moment. It was Xian Ji who came out to take charge of the situation, diverting everyone's attention from Yang Tian and devoting all their efforts to the development of the game. Next, Huangmao began to organize people and began to challenge Fantasy World. Fantasy World is a level 180 copy. When a player or NPC reaches level 180, they will get a Fantasy World ticket. You can challenge once a day. If you die, that is, if the challenge fails, you will be asked to leave the Fantasy World and refresh the ticket at 6 a.m. the next day. Fantasy World can be said to be the largest copy of Takezu, without a doubt. It is a wonderful world full of Shuyunibu elements. The monsters and NPCs in it are full of Shuyunibu and dream all day long, but in that world, their dreams can come true, they become as strong as they imagine themselves to be. You can't believe that in there, an inconspicuous caterpillar the moment before may become a dragon in the blink of an eye. A little kid under 10 years old may become a god in the blink of an eye. In the fantasy world, the levels range from 180 to 200, and all the fantasies of the native monsters there will come true. In short, the more serious the Chuyunibu is, the stronger it is. In the fantasy world, spirit kings and spirit beasts can be seen everywhere. Of course, it is still difficult to see gods or mythical beasts. Even in the fantasy world, there are still very few people who fantasize about being gods or mythical beasts. The fantasy world links all war zones except the awakened war zone, that is, the world-class dungeons. When you enter the fantasy world, you are likely to encounter foreign strongmen above level 180. Of course, the awakened war zone, as the treasure of the world government, has a separate fantasy world inside it. Why is the level of the awakened war zone so high? Because they challenged the fantasy world earlier than other war zone players. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 422. At present, there are only about 10 strong people with a level of more than 180 in the Water Alliance. In addition to the 4 Saint Kings including Huangmao, Xiaofei, Longliu, Shuangguo, Haoshan, Langliang, Kainyu and others have also reached level 180. Huangmao led the team and entered the fantasy world copy. He also brought Xiaojin, Xianyuan Longer and Alice. Although the fantasy world is very special, linking various war zones to form a world-class battlefield, it is still a copy in essence. and the copies are all mirror images. Even if you die in battle, it is just a challenge failure. There is no real death. The copy is also very friendly to NPCs, and there is no need to worry about dying in it. System: you discovered the fantasy world and gained 500,000 experience points. As the system prompt sounded in their ears, Huang Mao and his group came to an endless grassland. There were many caterpillars on this grassland. They were about 1 centimeter long and lay on the grass stalks to eat the green grass. Occasionally, the wind howled, blowing countless caterpillars all over the sky, and one of the caterpillars was blown right into Huang Mao's face. Amid the laughter of the crowd, Huang Mao's face suddenly became ugly, and he quickly pulled the caterpillar down and kicked it away. What the hell, it's clearly a level 180 copy, and there are caterpillars in it, Huang Mao cursed. As soon as the voice fell, the row of caterpillars on the opposite side seemed to be enraged, and white light rushed out of their bodies. In the dazzling white light, each caterpillar expanded rapidly, and a second later, all the caterpillars turned into giant steel dragons. The continuous and majestic dragon roar sounded, setting off a violent shock wave, blowing the hair of Huang Mao and others upright, and the robe snapped, and even flattened the surrounding grass, leaving no weeds and revealing fresh soil. In Taixu, the iron dragon belongs to the dinosaurs fantasy species. It has the strong and sturdy physique of dinosaurs. It is made of steel and has a pair of steel wings on its back. It shines with metallic luster under the sun. The iron dragon in the center is the strongest, and it is surrounded by 3-color treasure light. It has reached the level of spiritual beasts. The other dozens of iron dragons are also 180 level royal beasts. By the way, the frost dragon is not an elemental dragon, but also a dinosaur's fantasy species. In Taixu, the symbol of elemental dragons is immunity to physical attacks, such as fire dragons, water dragons, hidden dragons, etc. Hiss. Looking at the scene in front of them, Huang Mao and others gasped, their eyes burst, and their jaws dropped to the ground. What's going on? A moment ago, they were a group of annoying caterpillars, and in the blink of an eye, they turned into a group of iron dragons. Is this possible? I know. Fantasy world, all fantasies here can come true. Haha, look at me, transform into Ultramantiga. Suddenly, Sci-fi roared. 3 seconds passed. Xiao Fei still didn't change at all. In the dull eyes of everyone, Xiao Fei's face turned red, and he coughed dryly, saying, "Sorry, I made a mistake. It seems that only indigenous monsters can make fantasy come true in the fantasy world. Idiot. Isn't this obvious? If players can make their fantasies come true, then what's the point of playing?" Huang Mao spitted wildly, and his saliva splashed wildly on Xiao Fei's face, making the latter's face flushed and his dignity was lost. Roar. Before they knew it, the group of steel dragons rushed over, and between the flapping of pairs of steel wings, countless wind blades were generated, like a chain gun, bombarding Huang Mao and others. Iron wall. Long Lu reacted very quickly, stepped forward, raised his shield to block, and at that moment his giant shield became countless times larger, forming a copper wall, blocking all the wind blades outside. Bang bang bang. 350-2032. 350-2032. 350-2032. 350-2032. 350-2032. Add 1500302230. Every round of attack by the Iron Dragons, Long Lu lost blood crazily. Although he was a shield warrior with high defense and high blood, and a set of 150 level royal weapons, his equipment was also good, but he did not have blood or spiritual essence, and was now just an ordinary player of level 180, and could not withstand the concentrated fire of a group of royal beasts. If it were not for Alice's treatment, he would have fallen down long ago. Long Lu, You can't stop it, retreat, Xiao Jin is up, Huang Mao shouted. Xiao Jin is now a holy king. With a roar, his body grew to 100 meters high, like a mountain blocking Long Lu. Bang bang bang. The iron dragons continuously fired wind blades, focusing on Xiao Jin, causing a terrifying explosion. However, that level of damage was like a tickle to Xiao Jin, and his blood bar did not move. It grabbed backhand and dealt hundreds of millions of damage, easily crushing a giant steel dragon. Countless coins, equipment, and materials fell from the air along with the muddy corpse of the giant steel dragon. A group of reptiles. Xiao Jin was still not satisfied, and drew out a huge sword that was also 100 meters long and slashed wildly. With each sword, a giant steel dragon would be killed instantly. Xiao Jin blocked the sunlight like a mountain, and a huge shadow appeared behind him. Long Lu fought in the shadow, looking at Xiao Jin's tall back, and smiled bitterly. As a shield warrior, not to mention protecting his teammates, he couldn't even protect himself now. What a humiliation, even though his comrades and partners are now so strong that they don't need to stand behind him. This made Long Lu more lonely and couldn't find the value of his existence. Because Xiao Jin's existence is enough to resist all firepower and protect other companions in disguise. As the captain, Huang Mao had no more worries. He flew towards the group of steel dragons with Xian Yuan Longer holding a spear. Sweeping the army. Huang Mao swept the spear in his hand, and sparks exploded in the sky in front of him. With a series of terrifying damage, all the royal beast-level steel dragons fell and a large number of items were exploded. In the end, it was a simple 3-on-1. The three holy kings ravaged a spirit beast. After a moment, the last spirit beast-level steel dragon also fell. 3 colors. Could it be a dragon egg? The spirit beast-level steel dragon fell and exploded a large number of items, one of which flashed 3-color treasure light. Huang Mao rushed over and saw that it was not a dragon egg, but a bloodline. Steel dragon bloodline, 3 colors/consumables. After use, the attributes are improved, and the bloodline skills steel skin steel wings are obtained. Steel skin, passive increases double defense, protection, stiffness, and resistance by 30%. Steel wings, active instant, steel wings are born when the steel wings are flapped. A strong whirlwind will generate wind blades, stabbing the enemy. The steel wings last for 1 minute and cool down for 5 minutes. Tisk tisk, steel wings, these are the only wings I have seen that do not increase the speed of movement. Is it too heavy? Huang Mao smiled and gave the blood of the steel dragon to Long Lu without thinking. Long Lu happily took it. After using it, he successfully gathered spirits because he met the level requirements and was promoted to Spirit King. All attributes were greatly improved. And because of the passiveness of the steel skin, his whole body became black, shining with a steel-like luster, and various defensive attributes were improved again. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 423. Bang bang. Xiao Fei walked over and patted Long Lu twice, making a crisp sound. He couldn't help but laugh and said, "Not bad, it really feels like metal." Long Lu just smiled, and in an instant, white light burst out from his body again. System, congratulations on your job transfer to Dragon Blood Shield Warrior, gaining the professional talent Strong Chi and Blood, and gaining the basic professional skills Spirit Dragon Constitution and Spirit Dragon Transformation. Huh, job transfer, Dragon Blood Shield Warrior, I almost forgot, Berserker or Shield Warrior, after having Dragon Blood, automatically transfers to Dragon Blood Warrior. Huang Mao was stunned for a moment, and then overjoyed. You know, the professional skills and bloodline skills of hidden professions are two different things, and you can have them at the same time. For example, Yang Tian is the master of the undead, and has the 3 hidden professional skills of Undead Enslavement, Undead Transformation, and Extreme Summoning. He also has the Blood of the Dragon, and has the 2 bloodline skills of the Dragon Constitution and the Dragon Transformation. For example, Huang Mao is a Dragon Knight, with 2 hidden professional skills, Dragon Might and Dragon Riding Strike, and he also has the Holy Dragon Bloodline, with 2 bloodline skills, Holy Dragon Constitution and Holy Dragon Transformation. There are definitely more than 2 hidden professional skills, and as for being able to get more, that is another matter. Bloodline skills, no matter what kind of bloodline, even if it is a god-level bloodline, there are only 1-2 bloodline skills at most. And Xianyuan Longer is a dragon blood warrior, with the bloodline of the divine dragon. What a coincidence, her hidden professional skills overlap with her bloodline skills. The professional skills of the dragon blood warrior, dragon body, dragon transformation. The bloodline skills of the original dragon, dragon body, dragon transformation. But Long Lu is different. Although the Iron Dragon is a dragon, it is not a proto-dragon, but a dinosaur-like fantasy species. The professional skills of the dragon blood warrior are different from the bloodline skills of the dinosaur, so naturally they cannot overlap. Good. With the 2 passive skills of Iron Skin and Dragon Body, you will be the strongest shield warrior. The yellow-haired man smiled at Long Lu as if he had found a treasure. You don't need to change your bloodline. One day when we get the godhood, we can directly evolve your spiritual bloodline to the god-level bloodline. Bloodline is higher than the spiritual essence. Because bloodline can evolve by absorbing energy such as spiritual essence and immortal energy. And the spiritual essence and immortal energy can only be replaced when encountering bloodline of the same level. In just a few seconds, Long Lu completed the transformation and rose up. Now, at the level of the Spirit King and Spirit Beast, I'm afraid no one can hurt him, even the Fairy King and Fairy Beast, he can resist 1 or 2, which shows his potential. Ha, I have gained a lot just after I came here. This fantasy world is really extraordinary. Let's go and continue to open up the wasteland. The yellow-haired man was in a very good mood. He waved his hand and led the team to move forward. For the next week, Huang Mao and others were in the fantasy world, and during this period, incredible things happened. As mentioned above, Yang Tianlong and others killed the lord of Jianjiun city and were wanted by the Xinwu Empire. The Xinwu Empire knew that Xianyuan Longer had the blood of the dragon and had great potential, so the wanted order was updated every day and the bounty increased every day. It was urgent. For several consecutive months, not to mention the wanted order, even the ghost could not be seen. The Emperor Xinwu felt a mountain of pressure and finally became angry. He had to suspect that Xianyuan Longer and other thieves had fled to other empires, so he sent envoys to the other 3 empires and proposed to want the thieves in the entire Chinese continent, that is, the Chinese war zone. The 4 empires were not harmonious with each other, and there would even be wars every few years. Every emperor was ambitious and tried to annex the other 3 empires and monopolize the entire Chinese continent. However, they all had a common fear of the royal descendants of each hidden empire. The open and secret struggles between the 4 empires were inevitable, but they would never allow the emergence of the next empire. Because of this, the 4 empires reached an alliance agreement only on the matter of wanting Yang Tianlonger and others. The 4 empires simultaneously wanted and offered rewards, causing unrest. At the same time, all the players in the Chinese war zone also knew about this. Led by Zeus, many forces suppressed by the Water Alliance seemed to have found an opportunity, and they moved at the news and sold the current base coordinates of the Water Alliance to the 4 empires. December 15, 2133, was exactly the 86th day after Yang Tian disappeared. On this day, God's left hand, God's right hand and others, with many generals and marshals of the 4 countries, appeared over the island where the Water Alliance was located. Don't panic, adventurers, we have no hostility, we only need your cooperation, that is, to hand over Xuan Yuan Longer, Han Shui, Alice, Adis, and other thieves? Otherwise, you will protect the thieves and enter the wanted list of our 4 empires forever. A golden armored marshal of the Xinwu Empire directly threatened the people of the Water Alliance. 4 players, death is not terrible, it's just a drop in level. However, being wanted by the authorities is very scary. As long as the 4 empires do not cancel the wanted order, they will be hunted endlessly, and it will not end even if they are killed back to level 0. Everyone, this matter has nothing to do with most of you. Now there is a way out, that is to withdraw from the Water Alliance and leave. Xianji's words rang in the ears of all players in the Water Alliance through the Alliance channel. We won't leave. Isn't it just wanted? When Brother Shui comes back, he will definitely protect us. That's right. Those Zeus's bullies are starting to be dishonest again. I think they have forgotten the fear of being dominated by Brother Shui. When Brother Shui returns as a king, he will definitely beat their heads again. Through the development of the past 2 years, the people of the Water Alliance have long been united and unwilling to abandon Yang Tian. Even if they are wanted by Yang Sheng, they have no hesitation. How dare you? You thieves are simply stubborn. Marshal Jinjia inadvertently changed the name of the people of the Water Alliance and directly called them thieves. This time, each of the 4 empires has a Marshal Jinjia, who represents their own empire. With a wave of their hands, they issued an imperial wanted order for all the people of the Water Alliance, which is limited and permanent. Kill, the 4 marshals roared at the same time, leading all the imperial generals present, and God's left hand and others to cause a crazy massacre of the people of the Water Alliance. For a time, many teleportation arrays on the island exploded, corpses were everywhere, blood flowed like a river, and countless equipment, materials, and coins were lying on the ground. After hearing the news, Huang Mao decisively withdrew from the copy and brought people here as soon as possible. God's left hand, do you have any shame? You are colluding with NPCs in the battle between us players. Seeing the miserable situation of the Water Alliance, Huang Mao's eyes were red with anger and he almost went berserk. He stared at God's left hand coldly and shouted. Humph, the winner is the king and the loser is the bandit. I just made reasonable use of the resources I could control. It's all your fault that you are too arrogant. You dare to offend the empire without any achievements. God's left hand sneered and didn't take Huang Mao seriously at all. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 424. You are such a big mouth, you defeated General Huang Mao sneered. When God's left hand heard this, his eyes suddenly bulged. He was narrow-minded and could not stand losing. Now that Huang Mao mentioned his pain point, he was instantly furious. God's left hand is now also a Saint King, and also a player marshal of the Dark Empire. He has a lot of say, and the other 4 marshals also give him face. He roared, and the battle broke out again. The combat power of the 4 empires' joint army is sufficient. Including God's left hand, there are 5 Saint Kings. The imperial generals who accompanied him were also Spirit Kings and Immortal Kings. They defeated the Water Alliance in a short time. Even if Huang Mao Longer and others returned, they could not change the situation. Countless players in the Water Alliance died many times in battle, and the average level dropped by several levels, which only made Huang Mao Xianji indignant. Give up this island and retreat. Xianji gave an order. On the battlefield, the bodies of countless Water Alliance players disappeared. They no longer forced to revive and fight again, but resurrected to another teleportation point. In this level of battle, ordinary players like them are really useless. Even if they stay, they will only lose levels and equipment. Let's go too. Although the fighting spirit in his heart is boiling, he is unwilling to flee after defeat, but now that Yang Tian is not here, Huang Mao must ensure the safety of Xianyuan Longer, Alice, and others. After speaking, Huang Mao, Xianyuan Long Alice, Xiao Jian, Dr. Edith, Xiao Fi Longliu and others withdrew from the battle and fled the battlefield quickly. They only need to ensure that they are not attacked by the enemy for 5 seconds, and everyone can escape safely. It's her. Xianyuan Long We must get rid of her no matter what, otherwise there will be endless troubles, the golden armored marshal of the Xinwu Empire suddenly roared, causing the other 3 marshals to rise in fighting spirit. To eliminate Xianyuan Long was a death order issued by the emperors of the 4 countries at the same time, and they had to take it seriously. Immediately, the 4 marshals turned their fighting spirit into wings, broke through the air, and caught up with Xianyuan Long at an unimaginable speed, and besieged her frantically. Although Xianyuan Long was a saint king and had the physique of a dragon, she could not resist the siege of 4 level 200 saint kings at the same time, and her HP dropped wildly for a while. Sister Long Alice exclaimed, gave up running, turned around and kept treating Xianyuan Long to raise the latter's bloodline. Roar! At some point, Xiao Jin had turned into a 100-meter giant, and with a savage collision, he knocked all the 4 marshals out with 4 muffled groans. Of course, Xiao Jin himself was also trapped in the enemy group. Xiao Jin, you. Because of Xiao Jin's life-saving, Xianyuan Long was relieved from the predicament. He turned his head and looked at Xiao Jin, who was trapped in the enemy group, and slashed wildly with a sword. Suddenly, his nose was sour and his voice was hoarse. Go! The veins on the yellow-haired face rolled, and he roared. Xianyuan Long woke up from a dream, wiped away her tears and turned around, and fled with Alice. Beast! What a good thing you did! The cooked duck flew away, and the 4 marshals roared at the same time, and together with many imperial generals, they besieged Xiao Jin frantically. Xiao Jin fought hard, killed several imperial generals and injured an imperial marshal, but he could not escape the fate of death in the end. His tough skeleton body exploded in mid-air, and countless items fell with the broken bones. God's left hand dived down at the first time, and he picked up the soul ball that Xiao Jin exploded for the second time in his life. This time it was a 9-color soul ball. Xiao Jin's soul may be too special. Now he is a holy king with 3 souls and 5 spirits, but after dying in battle, many souls still gathered together in the form of soul balls. If I remember correctly, muddy water can create skeletons. As long as there is a soul ball, it can be resurrected infinitely. You beast, you have been resurrected many times. God's left hand suddenly sneered, and crushed the soul ball in his hand with a bang, turning it into countless stars and scattered. Humph, let's see how you can be resurrected this time. God's left hand had a morbid smile on his face. After doing this, he felt an indescribable pleasure in his heart. After Xiao Jin died in the battle, all his equipment, including the 6-color brute force belt, exploded. Now, the brute force belt naturally fell into the hands of God's left hand. The crisis of the Water Alliance this time was temporarily resolved with the death of Xiao Jin. But this war is far from over. The so-called wall falls and everyone pushes it. Many forces headed by Zeus are not used to the Water Alliance's dominance in the Chinese war zone. Now with such a good opportunity, they naturally all join the 4-nation coalition army to encircle and suppress the Water Alliance. In just 1 week, many teleportation arrays under the Water Alliance were found and destroyed by the 4-nation coalition army. The Chinese war zone is so large, and the 4 empires occupy most of the area. All members of the Water Alliance are wanted, and there is almost no escape, and it is difficult to find a place to stay. As a result, many players in the Water Alliance have been caught and killed many times. In this week, the worst person was killed more than 10 times in a row, his level dropped more than 10 levels in a row, and his equipment was almost completely destroyed. With such a sad experience and such a miserable environment, those people still did not betray the coordinates of Xianyuan Long Alice, Dr. Edith, and other core bandits, but they sadly withdrew from the Water Alliance, and also resented Yang Tian, the so-called leader. What kind of leader are you? The Water Alliance was targeted so much, and all the members ended up miserably. Where are you? Yang Tian has always been the absolute core and spiritual pillar of the Water Alliance, and has been unconditionally trusted by everyone. Yang Tian disappeared, and Huang Mao replaced him, which was enough to convince everyone, but he could not replace Yang Tian's position in everyone's heart. Just because Yang Tian led the Water Alliance in the past 2 years, led everyone in the Water Alliance to start from scratch, and became the first force in the national server, creating too many myths and legends. Love leads to hate. It is the true portrayal of those who quit the Water Alliance. In the second week, the four-nation coalition army found the last teleportation array of the Water Alliance in the World Forest. With no way out, Huang Mao led everyone in the Water Alliance to fight back desperately. Huang Mao himself was killed more than a dozen times, and all his top-grade equipment and top-grade gems were exposed, including the Ice Soul Sword. The Ice Soul Sword is parasitic on the Frost Dragon. Without the Ice Soul Sword, Huang Mao's combat power plummeted. As a legendary Dragon Knight, but without the Dragon Knight, he is no different from an ordinary knight. Just when Xian Yuanlong and Alice both fell, at that moment, Huang Mao's strength seemed to be drained, and he lost all his fighting spirit. He stretched out his hands to the 4 enemy marshals with a dejected look. You won, and the ultimate goal was achieved, but they are all innocent. I hope you can withdraw the wanted order. In exchange, I will go to prison. A marshal nodded, and then 2 generals came forward to tie Huang Mao up with iron chains, and the 3 of them turned into white light and fled. The next moment, Huang Mao appeared on the last floor of the big prison, sentenced to life imprisonment. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 425. After killing Xian Yuanlong, the four-nation coalition army achieved its goal. They were no longer a threat and even got a precious dragon bloodline. For this reason, the marshals did not break their promise. After putting Huang Mao in the big prison, they revoked the wanted order for the people of the Water Alliance. Let's go back and report. The 4 marshals waved their hands and finally took Dr. Atis away. Atis himself has extremely great value, and the 4 countries will never let him go. After the wanted order was revoked, the people of the Water Alliance seemed to have regained their freedom and would no longer be targeted when traveling. However, the huge Water Alliance now has no teleportation array, just like they have lost their home, and everyone doesn't know where to go. Moreover, after this tragic war, the Water Alliance has fallen, and the former number 1 force in the national server has disappeared, replaced by a weak force that no one pays attention to and no one cares about. Let's go. Huang Mao boss has tried his best, and we have tried our best. We didn't expect the ending to be like this. Well, it's useless to stay here. Let's go our separate ways and wait for Brother Shui to come back. Will Brother Shui come back? He has been gone for 3 months. The last group of people in the Shui League who fought to the end glanced at the ruined battlefield and left sadly. A few minutes later, a peerless swordsman with 2 swords on his back came to this deserted ruin alone. He waved his hand and summoned 2,000-year-old ice coffins, then bent down and gently put the bodies of Xian Yuanlong and Alice into the ice coffins. The ice coffin was as transparent as crystal, and Xian Yuanlong and Alice lay in it like sleeping beauties. Muddy water, it's you who makes me succeed and you who makes me fail. I really don't know what you are doing. At such an important stage, you can't be online for 3 consecutive months. The Sword Emperor sighed, took back the 2 ice coffins and fled. Outside the World Forest, the 4 emperors including the Emperor Xinwu personally came out to welcome the four-nation alliance. In fact, at the moment when Xian Yuanlong fell, the four-nation alliance was actually dead in name only. The relationship between the 4 empires is not as good as imagined. There have been undercurrents for so many years. The reason why they united this time was because of the pressure of the situation. Now that Xianyuan longer has fallen, the threat has disappeared. The Four-Nation Alliance. Bullshit. The reason why the four emperors came out in person this time was to fight for the ownership of the dragon bloodline and Dr. Edith. Of course, the fight was hidden in their hearts. On the surface, the four emperors were all in high spirits, and they tacitly understood each other and negotiated the ownership issue. Above the World Forest, the Four-Nation Alliance was on its way back. The Dragon Bloodline and Dr. Edith were both controlled by the Marshal of the Xinyu Empire Geng Qi. At this time, Geng Qi was not calm in his heart. Feeling the slightly unfriendly gazes from the other three armies, Geng Qi felt that holding the blood of the dragon was a hot potato. To be honest, Geng Qi was afraid that the three armies would suddenly attack. In fact, the other three marshals had this intention for a long time, but no one had taken action now, and they seemed to be watching and waiting for others to take the first step. Marshal Lu, you and I are both working for the Dark Empire. Whatever you want to do, we Zeus will fight on your side. God's left hand approached the Marshal Lu Mang of the Dark Empire and said obscurely. Lu Mang shook his head and whispered, "You can't do it. Even if you are both holy kings, the lives of you adventurers are too fragile. If you fight, you will definitely be the first to die." Lu Mang's unconscious underestimation made God's left hand's eyes sharp, and the violent murderous intent flashed. "You are so good, Lu Mang, you actually want to take the blood of the dragon alone. Our Dark Empire treats you well, do you want to rebel?" God's left hand suddenly shouted loudly, causing Geng Qi and others to stare. God's left hand, you. Lu Mang's eyes widened, looking at God's left hand's sinister smile, his face full of disbelief. Bang 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 dash. The next moment, the three armies attacked Lu Mang at the same time. No matter how powerful Lu Mang was, he could not withstand the joint attack of the three armies, and he fell into a corpse in a short moment. At this time, the generals of the Dark Empire who came with Lu Mang woke up from their dreams, pointing at God's left hand and shouting coldly, "Traitor! I think it's you who wants to rebel. Marshal Lu has been loyal and upright all his life, and you, a villain, actually framed him. You are unworthy of being the Marshal of the Empire." Facing the criticism of the generals of the Dark Empire, God's left hand smiled and shrugged, not caring at all. "Marshals, I am just an adventurer, I have no intention of competing with the Empire, nor do I want to get involved in the blood of the dragon. However, you have killed Lu Mang, so you should not mind doing more excessive things, right?" God's left hand said with a playful smile. Geng Qi and the others naturally understood what he meant. God's left hand wanted to use them to kill all the marshals and generals of the Dark Empire. "Okay, Lu Mang is dead, and none of them can survive," Geng Qi sneered. God's left hand, you are so insidious. Many generals of the Dark Empire kept cursing, and the other three armies followed closely. Pa pa pa. Suddenly, applause sounded in the distance, and at the same time, a playful laugh came. "Good, very good, it's really a wonderful dog-eat-dog show. Left hand, if possible, I really want to give you a Best Director award." God's left hand, Geng Qi and the others were all startled, and looked in the direction of the sound, but saw that three young men appeared in the air in front of them. God's left hand looked at the figure of the young man in the lead, his eyes bulged, his face full of disbelief. "Right hand, I didn't expect it to be you." God's left hand sighed, with a strong fear on his face. On the side, God's right hand was stunned when he heard the words. "Right hand? Which right hand? Could it be?" Zeus Club discovered two boys with evil talents in the field of games and esports in the early years. Although the two boys were gifted, they each had their own quirks. One was narrow-minded and his self-esteem was almost paranoid. The other was cruel and vicious, and did everything he could. When the two boys became adults, they became the ace main force of Zeus and were given Id's, God's left hand and Devil's right hand. Both of them had a great reputation in the international esports circle in their early years. God's left hand is unusually calm and has absolute dominance under normal circumstances. Devil's right hand is unruly and often beats teammates, and even takes money to play fake games, without any professional quality. Once, the Devil right hand received money to play a fake game, and he acted in various ways and sold mistakes. Unexpectedly, one of his teammates performed beyond his level, and Zeus won the game in the end. The Devil right hand was furious and beat the teammate to a cripple, and was eventually expelled from Zeus. Afterwards, Zeus found the current God right hand to replace the former. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super God Undead Lord. Author, Ba Wang Shi-san. Chapter 426. Left hand, now is not the time to reminisce about old times. I'm sorry, I may have to kill you today. The demon's right hand smiled evilly. The three people accompanying them suddenly burst out with rich blood energy, covering their whole bodies and forming armor. Maybe they killed too many people and were stained with too much blood, making the bloody armor appear jet black. At the same time, a pair of devil horns sprouted from their heads, shallow fangs sprouted from the corners of their mouths, the nails on their hands and feet became sharp and protruding, 6 wings sprouted from their backs, and an extremely flexible, underturned black tail grew from their tails. The three people standing in the air had a strange sense of beauty, an evil beauty. Devil. It turned out to be a demon, a 6-winged demon. Many generals from the 4 countries were trembling. Although they were not weak, they still had instinctive fear when facing demons. It is said that demons have not appeared in the Chinese mainland for a long time, but now they are encountered. Demons usually measure their strength by the number of wings. With 2 wings, they are at the level of a spirit king. The 4 wings are at the level of an immortal king. 6 wings has the level of a holy king. Moreover, demons are products of the demon realm in the upper world. Demons are much stronger than humans at the same level. Don't panic. Although they are demons, they are just adventurers. Even if their combat power is very high, their vitality is much more fragile than ours. Gang Chi roared to stabilize the mood of the generals. Immediately, Gang Chi and others attacked with force, their swords pierced the sky, and the magic arrows were so bright and dazzling that they focused their fire on the 3 people on the demon's right hand. The demon has a medium build in his right hand, holding a huge black sword. Next to him are 2 demons, one fat and one thin. Fat man, no, to be precise, he is not fat. The muscles all over his body are bulging without any fat, and he looks very tall. He is called Mosu, holds a giant shield, and appears to be a shield warrior. A thin man with handsome appearance, called Xiefeng, holding 2 muskets, he seems to have a hidden profession. Note that demons are a race, not a profession. Devil's right hand, Mosu, and Xiefeng each have their own fighting professions. Facing the enemy group's concentrated fire, Mosu suddenly stepped forward and raised his shield to block. Iron wall. In an instant, the giant shield in Mosu's hand magnified n times, catching all the opponent's fire. Bang bang bang. Mosu withstood countless attacks, but he remained motionless, in the enemy group, except for the 3 marshals Gang Chi who were able to make him lose a little blood. All the other generals were unable to break through his defense and could only inflict 1 point of damage. Too weak, you guys are just here to make fun of me. Haha, we don't have enough life. But if you want to kill us, you have to at least break through my defense. Mosu laughed wildly, and at the same time said deliberately some dirty words make the other party embarrassed. A hail of bullets. Bang bang bang. Xiefeng stood behind Mosu and fired wildly with 2 muskets. The dense shells were arranged in a net. The attack range was extremely large, covering almost everyone in the enemy group. Moreover, Each cannonball is extremely powerful, easily causing hundreds of millions of damage. Under the continuous fire of rolling shells, Genchi and others lost blood like crazy, and even after one round, many generals at the Spirit King level fell directly. As for everyone in Zeus, except for God's left hand, almost all of them were wiped out. Hey, there are some old friends of the boss over there, CFN, you are too harsh, aren't you? Mosu laughed loudly. Old friends? Don't be ridiculous. For people like us, there are no friends. Only interests are eternal. CFN took back the two muskets, blew a breath, and said with a sneer. Haha, CFN is right, Mosu, you are still too naive. Be careful not to end well if you follow us in the future, the devil said with an evil smile on his right hand. That's okay. It's just a game. It's nice to play a villain once in a while. Rush over to me and kill the musketeer first. Genchi roared, and the whole army charged, ignoring and avoiding Mosu, and attacked CFN, slashing at him with his swords. Call out. CFN's body turned nimbly, and 3 pairs of demon wings violently flapped the air, arousing strong inertia, which accelerated CFN's movement. In the blink of an eye, CFN flew away from its original coordinates, swept far behind, and dodged a round of flanking attacks from the opponent. Genchi and others were startled and continued to pursue, but they were still unable to close the distance with CFN. Ha, it seems that your speed is not as fast as mine, CFN smiled sarcastically, deliberately teasing. Demon wings are one of the blood skills of the demon bloodline. They have no other functions than flying and acceleration. 1 wing increases by 10%, and 6 wings increase by 60%. Bang bang bang. 950-002-3020. 930-400-2021. 949-903-2213. CFN retreated while kiting his opponents. He fired randomly at Genchi and others. The damage of each shot was extremely high. Occasionally a headshot will trigger a fatal blow, dealing multiple times the damage. Hidden professions are usually divided into 2 types, one is the advanced hidden profession, and the other is the single hidden profession. For example, the Lord of the Undead and the Dragon Knight are advanced hidden professions. They are advanced from the Necromancer and the Knight, and they have the skills of the basic professions. Although the single hidden profession is also very strong, its skills are very few. After all, the skills of the hidden profession are not so easy to obtain. It is precisely because of the lack of skills that CFN had to increase his basic attack power in order to improve his combat power. Of course, as a 6-winged demon, he already has a 600% basic attack power bless. Ahahahaha. With a wild laugh, CFN used his high speed to run around in the air, kiting his opponents infinitely. After a while, Genchi and others were all left with low health, and even many immortal kings had fallen. This battle completely turned into CFN's gorgeous personal show. Whoosh! Genchi and others became more and more afraid, and the Dochi turned into wings. As the speed increased, they began to slowly close the distance with CFN. You know, Dochi turned into wings consumes a lot of mana, consuming 10% of mana per second. Even if it is a Saint King, if he wants to maintain Dochi turned into wings, it can only last for 10 seconds at most. Battle Chi turns into wings, do you think I don't have any? Just when CFN was about to be caught up and Genchi and others were ecstatic, CFN suddenly smiled strangely, and a pair of huge wings of light appeared behind him. He accelerated again and again, leaving Genchi and others behind again. Being fooled again and again, and having hope and despair again and again, the morale of Genchi and others fell, and they were filled with fear. They didn't even dare to chase CFN anymore, they just wanted to escape from these demons. Seeing this, CFN's eyes condensed, he knew his chance had come, and quickly transformed the battle chi into wings into battle chi, wrapping his whole body like a lotus. Because of the blessing of battle chi, Xiefeng's combat power increased several times, and each shot could actually point out about 50 billion damage. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 427. Xiefeng's combat power was so high that he could kill an immortal king with almost 2 shots. Moreover, he was a 6-winged demon with extremely fast attack speed. Holding 2 muskets, he could shoot no less than 10 times per second. After a while, only Gengqi and 3 other marshals were left in the 4-nation coalition army, and the rest of the generals were all killed by Xiefeng's guns. Even Gengqi and his 3 men were now only left with a trace of residual blood. They had fighting spirit wings, and their speed was extremely fast. But Xiefeng was a 6-winged demon, with 6 demon wings, and his speed was also very fast. They simply could not distance themselves from Xiefeng in a short time. After a few seconds, Gengqi and others' mana was consumed by the fighting spirit wings, and the fighting spirit wings behind them also disappeared. For a time, their movement speed was greatly reduced, and they completely became living targets for Xiefeng. After a while, Gengqi and others fell one after another, and a large number of items exploded and fell down with the cold bodies, of course, including the dragon bloodline. The 3 of them descended to the bottom of the forest and began to clean up the spoils. Various precious lights flashed, 3-color spiritual essence, 6-color fairy spirit, 9-color holy light. Boss, that God's left hand seems to have escaped in the chaos, Xiefeng said lazily, without any self-blame or guilt for his mistakes. It's okay, his ability is limited and he can't pose a threat to us. The devil's right hand smiled casually, and he didn't take God's left hand seriously. Immediately, he touched the dragon blood wrapped in the thousands of feet of rosy clouds and smiled, Xiefeng, you have made the greatest contribution in this battle, and the 4 holy lights belong to you. Thank you, boss. Xiefeng smiled casually, without any gratitude in his tone, showing that he is also an uneasy man. Damn, is it me who has the least benefit this time? Mo-su shouted. Who told you that you are the weakest? Xiefeng sneered, swallowed the 4 holy lights one after another, and the demon blood in his body absorbed nutrients and directly obtained attribute improvement. Weak. You and I are the same, at least you can't kill me, Mo-su roared. Defense is useless. Is your combat power higher than mine? In this battle, have you contributed as much as I have? Shut up and think clearly, Xiefeng sneered, unruly. The devil's right hand ignored the quarrel between the 2, hesitated for a moment, and finally sent the dragon blood into his mouth. Roar! Suddenly, the devil's right hand roared in pain. At this time, his body had undergone a huge change, and his whole body was twisted. Sometimes he was a demon, and sometimes he was a dragon man, constantly alternating. After an unknown period of time, the devil's right hand stabilized the demon form. At this time, the dragon blood had completely disappeared, and all its energy was absorbed and refined by the demon blood. Puff. At the same time, 2 tumors suddenly grew on the shoulder of the devil's right hand, and they kept wriggling and expanding. After 3 seconds, another pair of demon wings grew out. 8-winged demon. At this moment, Mo-su and Xiefeng's eyes changed directly. Compared with before, they were more awed by the devil's right hand. There is no such thing as Spirit King, Immortal King, Saint King, or God in the demon clan. Their strength is measured by the number of demon wings. 8-winged demon, although the devil's right hand is not yet level 200, he already has the power of God. Congratulations, boss. Congratulations, boss. Mo-su and Xiefeng congratulated at the same time. The devil's right hand's eyes flashed, and he said in shock, unbelievable, look at my HP. As he said that, the devil's right hand posted his attribute panel on the public frequency. HP, 1.8 megabytes. Mo-su and Xiefeng were all shocked. You know, players have always been weaker than NPCs and monsters in terms of HP. As a Saint King, the player Saint King only has about 20 million HP, while the NPC Saint King or Holy Beast has about 300 billion HP. The difference is huge. It seems that becoming a god is a hurdle. After crossing this hurdle, there is no difference in health between players and NPCs. Although you are not a god, the eight-winged demon is no different from a god, so you have also crossed this hurdle, Xiefeng analyzed. Yes, I think so too. The demon's right hand smiled slightly. Okay, the four old immortals are still guarding outside. It is not advisable to stay here for a long time. Let's retreat first. The demon's right hand gave an order, and the three fled. After a great battle, the world forest returned to peace again. Suddenly, an old figure poked out from behind a tree. He was Dr. Edith. Because he had his own value, Gengqi and others tried their best to protect him during the previous battle. In the end, Gengqi and others were wiped out, but he escaped. Dead, all dead. It seems that I have to find a place to hide and wait for the master to return. Edith glanced at the bodies of Gengqi and others, shook his head and sighed, and then slowly disappeared into the jungle. Yang Tian has 5 NPC war servants, Xianyuan Long Alice, Xiao Jin, Dwarf King Carrie, and Dr. Edith. Now, 4 of them died in battle, and only Dr. Edith survived. However, the bodies of Xianyuan Long and Alice have been preserved in a 1,000-year ice coffin by the Sword Emperor, which means there is still a possibility of resurrection. Even Xiao Jin's soul ball was crushed by God's left hand, and he was saved and ascended to heaven. God's left hand gained a lot of merit points, and Xiao Jin's soul was sent to the God's realm. If one day, Yang Tian can go to the God's realm, it is possible to revive Xiao Jin again. Only Carrie's body is gone. At the entrance of the world forest, the 4 emperors are still waiting. Why haven't they come back yet? Logically speaking, Gengqi, Lu Mang and others are all experienced and powerful, and they should be able to easily deal with a few bandits the 4 emperors discussed. In fact, they knew clearly that Gengqi and others had not returned yet, and there must have been internal fighting in the middle. But as emperors, they couldn't say such things openly. At the same time, they were also quite worried. If their own marshal took the blood of the dragon, it would be the best. But if it was obtained by another marshal, it would be very uncomfortable. Everyone, why don't we go and see together? Maybe Gengqi and others have encountered other troubles. The 4 emperors understood each other tacitly, and rushed towards the interior of the world forest together, all at a very fast speed, for fear of falling behind. A moment later, the 4 emperors found the bodies of Gengqi and others in the world forest. Everyone was dead, but the blood of the dragon was no longer here. They are all dead. Who is it? In the entire Chinese continent, except for the 4 of us, who else can kill Gengqi and others in just a few minutes? The 4 emperors were all horrified. Indeed, they also suspected each other. They suspected that a certain emperor secretly deployed a sneak attack, killed all the coalition forces of the 4 countries, and then plundered the blood of the dragon. But thinking about it, it seems wrong. The coalition forces of the 4 countries are all composed of marshals and generals, with a total of 4 saint kings and countless immortal kings. With such a powerful battle lineup, any empire in the 4 countries, even if they can wipe them out, it is impossible to leave no trace. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 428. If the murderer is really a team of a certain empire, the 4-nation coalition army will at least leave a few corpses behind when they fight back desperately, right? However, the 4 emperors did not find any strange corpses at this time. This is strange. The 4 emperors felt horrified. This murderer might be a god-level strongman who hides his identity. Even if he is not a god-level strongman, the murderer's strength is far superior to that of the Holy King. Otherwise, How could he wipe out Gengqi, Lu Mang, and others in such a short time? More importantly, the murderer took away the blood of the dragon. Even if he is not a god-level strongman, he will become a god-level strongman sooner or later. For a while, the four emperors had their own concerns. This time, they made careful preparations, but they benefited others in vain, and lost many marshals and generals. It was a blood loss. Time passed slowly. That night, Huang Mao was alone in the bar drinking. In the game, he was imprisoned. The time limit for imprisonment can only be continuously reduced by staying in the cell online. If you go offline, the time limit for your imprisonment will not be reduced. Ordinary criminals are in prison and strive for early release. But Huang Mao is different. He is sentenced to life imprisonment. Even if he goes online to jail, his time limit will not be reduced at all. In this case, why should he go online to jail? It is better to drink and get drunk in real life. For life imprisonment, there are only two options. First, delete the account and start over. Second, wait for someone to break out of prison. Huang Mao seemed to be thinking about this problem. The strong liquor made his heart ache. He drank one glass after another. Although the mobile phone in his pocket kept ringing, he seemed to be unable to hear it. I knew you were here. Don't drink anymore. Come on, come back with me. After an unknown amount of time, Xianji came with his mobile phone. At this time, Huang Mao was already lying on the table, smelling of alcohol, half drunk and half awake, and his mobile phone had been sunk into the wine glass by him, and was completely scrapped by the alcohol. Come on, brother, you came just in time. Continue, drink. Huang Mao's face was flushed, his eyes half open, and he laughed drunkenly. Xianji shook his head and sighed, and after paying the bill, he dragged Huang Mao out. After leaving the bar, there was no one around, and Huang Mao choked and sobbed, like a wounded wild cat, licking his wounds alone. It's not fun to be the leader, I know your pressure, Xianji said. They are all dead, Xiao Jinlong and the others are all dead. How can I explain to him? Huang Mao choked and tears kept falling. You have done a good job, Xianji said. What a bullshit, the Water Alliance was destroyed in my hands. No one said anything about me. I feel even worse. Huang Mao's mood calmed down a lot, he was much more sober, and wiped his face with both hands. His hands were full of tears and snot. Looking at Huang Mao's current appearance, Xianji couldn't help but think of the funny appearance of him wearing open crotch pants and urinating everywhere with snot hanging from his nose when he was a child, and he couldn't help laughing out loud. You don't have to be too pessimistic. In fact, I contacted the Sword Emperor at that time and asked him to use the 1,000-year-old ice coffin to preserve the bodies of Longer and Alice. If there is a chance in the future, they can still be resurrected. Besides, our Water Alliance has not disbanded. Although it has been severely damaged, who can say for sure that we can't rise again? Life is unpredictable. You can't even bear this little blow, right? Xianji smiled. As a brother, he has always played the role of a guiding light on Huang Mao's growth path. That's great, that's great. Huang Mao was stunned, muttering in his mouth, a smile on his face, and tears bursting at the same time. I don't know whether it's crying with laughter or laughing with tears. This is an inexplicable feeling of losing and regaining. Under the dim street lights, the two chatted a lot again until Huang Mao fell on his elder brother and fell asleep. Xianji sighed, and walked home with his brother on his back, just like when he was a child. Xiaolong, you have to be stronger. If the world really ends in 2 years, you will face more severe challenges under the street light. Xianji walked slowly on the ground with Huang Mao on his back, and Xianji kept saying something, even though Huang Mao could no longer hear. At noon the next day, Huang Mao woke up with a dizzy head, and Xianji was guarding beside him and preparing sobering tea for him. Huang Mao took the teacup and took a sip, and smiled, "Brother, Don't always treat me as a child. Instead of taking care of me, you should bring back a sister-in-law. Xianji just smiled. By the way, brother, I don't know what Xiao Tian is doing, and I don't know when he will come back. I'm sentenced to life imprisonment, and I'm waiting for nothing. It's better to delete the account and start over. When the time comes, you can take me with you, and I'll get up soon, Huang Mao suggested. Give up this idea. Xianji shook his head and refused. Why? Huang Mao was puzzled. Forget it, I think I can't keep it to myself anymore, so I'd better tell you earlier so that you can prepare early. Xianji smiled bitterly and told Huang Mao everything about the Awakeners, the Zerg, and the end of the world. Really, brother, you are still in the mood to make such a joke at this time? Huang Mao didn't believe it at first, which was the normal reaction of ordinary people. At such an important moment, do you think Yang Tian would disappear for so long for no reason? Although I don't know what he did specifically, it must be related to the Zerg. Xianji said, remember my last surgery? Why do you think I recovered so quickly? I am strong? Don't be ridiculous, even a cow would be weak after that kind of surgery. The truth is that Yang Tian summoned Alice to treat me. Damn, is this true? There are less than 2 years left, and the whole nation will awaken, the alien Zerg will invade the Earth, and the end of the world will be true. Huang Mao felt that his brain circuit was not enough, and he was shocked. Well, there are less than 2 years left. If you delete your account and start over, if we lead you, you can reach the maximum level, but you will never reach the maximum level of skills from scratch. In fact, in more than 3 years, you haven't practiced a skill to the maximum level, right? Xianji said. Well, I understand, Huang Mao said. That's right, you should rest more recently and spend more time with our parents when you have time. When Yang Tian comes back, you will be able to come out naturally. Xianji nodded. On the 101st day of Yang Tian, Lu Yan, and others' journey, the spacecraft finally landed on the Zerg star smoothly. In the universe, the distance between planets is too far, and the current human technology cannot accurately judge. Because of this, Yang Tian and others arrived more than 10 days later than expected. There are countless planets in the universe, and they are generally round, and this insect planet is no exception. Most of the insect planets are wilderness and deserts, with few forests and rivers. On the surface, the insect planets are mostly earthy yellow, with no color, and not as beautiful as the blue Earth. There is little oxygen on the insect planet, and the environment is very harsh. Yang Tian, Lu Yan, and others felt a little uncomfortable as soon as they got off the ship. But it was just discomfort. At least they were all immortal kings, and their life level was much stronger than ordinary humans, enough to survive on such a harsh planet. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 429. I've been here before. Yang Tian felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. In his previous life, he came to the insect star, probably in this wilderness, but was surrounded by countless Zergs, all of which were god-level Zergs. A moment later, Huang Mao came, and the two fought side by side to kill some god-level Zergs, and were finally killed by a Zergman. Yang Tian still remembered the strength of that Zergman, who was not in the same dimension as the gods. At that time, Yang Tian Huang Mao couldn't even block a single move and was killed in a flash. After sighing in his heart, Yang Tian couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. This time, at least he was not surrounded by Zergmen and the god-level Zergs everywhere. Perhaps, the Zergs are also in the growth stage at this stage, and perhaps, the insect star has not yet produced god-level Zergs, or even Zergmen. Yang, you look very happy, a teammate said to Yang Tian in English. Not happy, but relieved. I originally thought that the insect star was full of powerful zergs, but now it seems that the situation is not bad. Yang Tian also spoke in English. After more than 3 months, he can now communicate in simple English. Haha, Yang, you are so timid, except for Lu Yan, the other 4 teammates all left. Tisk. Yang Tian rolled his eyes and thought to himself, you have never tasted the fear of being dominated by the Zerg and the god-level Zerg all over the mountains. Okay, stop making trouble, everyone release the spiritual sense to search. Our goal is to search every corner of the Zerg star to detect whether there are god-level Zerg. Lu Yan gave an order, and several people began to release the spiritual sense to search honestly. Spiritual sense is the official definition of Lu Yan and other genuine awakeners. In the words of Yang Tian, a wild man, it is soul perception. Generally speaking, the higher the realm, the greater the range of perception. What is perceived? It is qi. As mentioned earlier, any life has a kind of qi. The strong have strong qi, and the weak have weak qi, but ordinary people can't see it. The awakened can see the qi through their spiritual sense. The qi of ordinary humans is very weak, just like a strand of white hair. Through qi, one can tell the strength of a life. Qi cannot be hidden. Even someone as strong as Yang Tian cannot completely hide his qi, but he can intentionally compress it to the level of ordinary people. Normal walking, running, jumping, even eating and sleeping, will not be affected at all, but once fighting with all his strength, or even flying, using this superhuman power, the qi cannot be compressed and will be completely exposed. But humans are humans after all, they are smart enough to compress their qi and hide in disguise. And the Zerg, even the god-level Zerg, do not have such high wisdom and do not know how to compress their qi at all. Even if they lie still, their breath is very strong. In his previous life, Yang Tian was a god-level assassin, and his spiritual sense could cover the entire Earth. But the insect planet is much larger than the Earth. Moreover, Yang Tian, Lu Yan and others have not reached the god level yet, and releasing their spiritual sense can only cover a small part of the insect planet. Among them, Lu Yan is a Saint King, and her spiritual awareness range is the largest. Yang Tian and the other 4 teammates are only at the Immortal King level now, and their spiritual awareness range is even smaller. After a reconnaissance, everyone, including Lu Yan, had no gains. In this wilderness, there was not even a single Zerg, let alone a god-level Zerg. Strange, we have done research on Earth and found that the Zerg has a strong reproductive capacity on Earth. After the Zerg mother lays eggs, those eggs are just different every day, and they will become giant insects in a few months. According to this reproductive capacity, this insect planet should be full of Zerg. In fact, my spiritual awareness has covered the entire wilderness, but I haven't found any Zerg. Is it because the environment of the insect planet is so bad that the reproduction capacity of the Zerg has also decreased? Lu Yan said continuously, and raised her own questions. It is indeed possible. Yang Tian nodded. In fact, he didn't know much about the Zerg on the insect planet. He came once in his previous life and then died, so even he could only guess. Let's take a look around. Let's move together and don't separate. After saying that, Lu Yan led the team to fly towards the front of the wilderness. Along the way, Lu Yan opened her spiritual sense to detect the breath of life around. However, opening the spiritual sense is extremely exhausting and will make you tired in a moment. After a while, because there was no Zerg at all, and even any slightly stronger life could not be found, Lu Yan breathed a sigh of relief, closed her spiritual sense and continued to move forward, intending to wait until they were out of this wilderness and open her spiritual sense again to scan again. Yang Tian, Lu Yan, and others were flying very fast, far exceeding the speed of sound. If they searched with all their strength, they could travel around the entire insect planet in 3 to 5 days at most. In fact, the speed of Yang Tian, Lu Yan, and others was many times faster than that of a spacecraft. It was just that they could not travel in the universe, so they had to rely on spacecraft. On the way forward, Yang Tian and others were awakened by a series of roars from the front. Everyone was startled, and looking forward, they found that they had almost reached the end of the wilderness without realizing it, and in front of them was a rare dense forest in the insect planet. What exactly happened ahead, because the mountains, valleys, and giant trees blocked the view, everyone didn't know for the time being, but those roars were definitely the roars of the Zerg. And there were not just one or two, but a whole group, a large group. It's the Zerg. Lu Yan stretched out her hand to signal the team to stop moving forward. At the same time, she released her spiritual sense to investigate. In just a moment, her face turned pale, her eyes trembled, and her upper and lower jaws kept interlocking and making slight panting sounds. She was scared. She couldn't believe that there was not a single Zerg in such a vast wilderness, and there were countless Zerg at the narrow junction of the wilderness and the forest. In the sea of consciousness, there were densely packed, countless powerful auras in that place. And after Lu Yan measured each aura, she concluded that it was far stronger than her own. That means there are countless god-level Zergs entrenched there. At the junction of the wilderness and the forest. In this place that Yang Tian and others could not see, countless god-level Zergs were fighting each other fiercely. The environment inside the Zerg star is extremely harsh. In addition to the Zerg, there are other creatures on this planet, but the types and numbers are very few. Yang Tian and others still underestimated the reproduction ability of the Zerg. Even in a harsh environment, the powerful Zerg queen still has an almost abnormal reproduction ability. Just as humans dominate the Earth, the Zerg dominate the Zerg star, but they are much more miserable than humans. In order to survive, they have to classify their own kind as food targets. Fighting among Zerg is actually an extremely common thing on the Zerg star. Super God Undead Lord. Author, B.A. Wang Shi-san. Chapter 430. This group of Zergs fought each other and were divided into two camps. One represented the wilderness, and the other represented the forest. Obviously, this was a fight between the same kind because of the struggle for territory. For the Zerg star with a harsh environment and scarce resources, it is conceivable how much attraction the forest has for the Zerg. When Lu Yan's spiritual sense swept over, many Zergs present had a sense of it, but did not care. Only two of the Zergs turned and flew towards the location of Yang Tian, Lu Yan, and others. Zerg, all of them are god-level Zerg. Lu Yan was stunned, and felt that every cell in her body was trembling. The goal of their trip this time was to search every corner of the Zerg star to find out whether the god-level Zerg was born on the Zerg star. Now it seems that Lu Yan only feels how ridiculous this task is. Oh no, we've been discovered. Now there are two god-level giant insects flying in our direction. In the spiritual sense, feeling two powerful auras approaching rapidly, Lu Yan screamed in fear. Except for Yang Tian, who remained calm, the other four teammates were already scared out of their wits, hugging each other and curling up in a ball. What are you still standing there for? Are you waiting to die? Run, run as fast as you can. Yang Tian remained calm in the face of danger, roared to wake everyone up, and fled at full speed. At the same time, Yang Tian waved his hand to summon tens of thousands of undead armies to block the advance of the two god-level Zergs. The speed of the god-level Zergs was so fast that they flew over in the blink of an eye, allowing Yang Tian to see their full appearance. Zerg is a large category, which is further divided into beetles, flying insects, poisonous insects, and even insect people. One of them is a reptile with a length of hundreds of meters, with a yellow body, which can fly into the sky and into the ground. The other is a huge flying insect shaped like a mantis. As the two insects rushed, they crushed the air and triggered a series of devastating gale. In just a moment, Yang Tian's massive undead army was crushed by the gale, and their strength was not at the same level at all. It's over, it's all over this time. Damn bugs, I'll fight you. A blond young man named Mike was trembling all over, his face twisted, Perhaps because of too much pressure and collapse, he actually roared, turned around and flew towards the two Zergs. "Mike!" everyone exclaimed, but could not dissuade Mike from turning back. The next was a cruel scene. I saw that the flying insect shaped like a praying mantis cut Mike in half with one knife, blood gushed out, and the two halves of the body fell down separately. Unlike in the game, when the health value reaches 0, you will lose consciousness immediately. But this is reality. Even if he was cut in half, Mike did not die immediately, because of the indescribable pain, and the visual impact of being cut into two pieces and blood gushing. The upper part of Mike's head screamed in pain and sobbed in despair. Everyone couldn't bear to watch this scene. The partner who had been with him day and night was going to die so easily, and the end was so miserable. Mike's girlfriend was sobbing so hard that Yang Tian and the others had to hold her tightly to prevent her from doing something stupid. And the despair was far from over. After killing Mike, the mantis gave up chasing Yang Tian and the others, and swooped down, greedily devouring the two halves of Mike's body. It quickly ate up Mike's lower body, and then began to devour Mike's upper body, which was still conscious. At this time, Mike's nervous system had actually been paralyzed. In other words, he had no sense of pain at all, but he still had vision, hearing, smell, and touch. Smelling the stench, Mike watched the mantis devour his body bite by bite, and sometimes made that creepy chewing sound. Endless fear came. Mike cried and screamed hysterically. "Kill me! Quick! If you are a friend, kill me quickly," this was Mike's last request. Hearing this, Yang Tian's mouth twitched wildly, his face was distorted, but his heart was extremely firm. Just when Yang Tian was about to end Mike's pain, Mike's girlfriend took the initiative and used a fire explosion to make Mike disappear completely. Roar! The giant mantis insect that was also hit by the fire explosion roared angrily. It was not injured. Just kidding, how could a god-level insect be injured by the attack of a mere fairy king? The reason why it roared was because others ruined its delicious meal. At the same time, the reptile landed on the ground and inserted its 10,000 feet into the ground. Bang bang bang. The ground in front of the reptile exploded, and countless sharp, branch-like spikes protruded, rushing forward, rushing towards Yang Tian and others. Everyone fled desperately, among whom Lu Yan was the fastest and escaped. The rest, including Yang Tian, were all hit by the spikes. Fortunately, Yang Tian had a glass bone shield and was not injured, while the other three people had their bodies pierced, blood was flowing from their mouths, and their faces were pale and bloodless. "Yang, Captain, we are already exhausted, run away at the moment of death," the three people breathed weakly and said intermittently. After speaking, all the spikes retreated violently. Those spikes were nothing else but the tentacles of the terrifying reptile. The reptile retracted its tentacles and rolled the three people into its mouth, chewing them up. No, Lu Yan completely collapsed, tears bursting, and Yang Tian's expression was also not good. "You go first, I will find a way to delay them," Yang Tian said calmly, wishing to die. "No, this is impossible," Lu Yan flatly refused. Yang Tian was helpless. In fact, he knew in his heart that he could not hold off two god-level Zergs for a few seconds, and Lu Yan could not escape safely. This time, it was really over. At this moment, a strong light rushed over, and in a flash, the figure in the strong light appeared in front of Yang Tian and Lu Yan. Roughly speaking, it was a person. But the skull of that person was extremely protruding. Although it was a bit impolite, it really looked like a hat on his head. Because of such a huge and weird skull, the facial features of that person, eyes, ears, mouth, nose, and eyebrows, appeared very small, squeezed together on a small face. "This person is very strong, so strong that he is comparable to a Zerg man," Yang Tian said in his heart. He had seen Zerg men in his previous life and knew the strength of Zerg men's breath, but this strange man now had a strong breath that was no less than that of Zerg men. "He is definitely not an Earthling," so he must be an alien. Lu Yan also felt the strength of that person and whispered to Yang Tian. Well, the hat alien. Yang Tian nodded in agreement. Pht. Lu Yan couldn't help laughing, and then she said with a straight face, damn it, you are still in the mood to joke at this time. Lu Yan complained on the surface, but in her heart, she was much more relaxed because of Yang Tian's joke.